Laziness often seems harmless in the moment. We tell ourselves we'll do it later. We convince ourselves that we deserve a little more rest, and we let another hour slip by. But the truth is, every time we give in to laziness, we're not just postponing work, we're postponing progress. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before we know it, opportunities have passed us by, leaving only regret behind. Think about it. How many dreams have been buried, not because of lack of talent or intelligence, but simply because someone chose comfort over effort? Laziness doesn't scream or make a scene, it quietly robs us of our potential. It's the silent thief of time. Recognizing this is the first step toward change. The boy in the story didn't realize how much his laziness was costing him until he saw others moving ahead while he remained stuck. That realization was painful, but it became the spark that pushed him to act, and that's what each of us needs, to face the truth about what laziness is taking away from us. Because once we recognize the cost, we can no longer afford to pay it. The mistake many people make is believing that overcoming laziness requires some huge, dramatic change overnight. They think they need to suddenly become unstoppable, working endlessly without pause. But that's not how transformation really happens. The truth is, it starts small, so small that it almost feels insignificant at first. Waking up 10 minutes earlier, finishing one task instead of leaving it for later, reading a few pages of a book instead of scrolling endlessly on your phone. These little actions may not look like much, but when repeated consistently, they build habits. And habits are stronger than excuses. That lazy boy in the story didn't suddenly become hardworking in one day. He started with tiny steps that slowly built his discipline. Each small victory gave him the confidence to tackle the next challenge, until eventually he had created momentum that laziness could no longer control. You see, discipline is like a muscle. It grows with use. Every consistent effort, no matter how small, strengthens you. And soon the small actions that once felt difficult become part of who you are. That is how the cycle of laziness is broken, through daily effort that compounds into lasting change. Laziness often feels heavy because we lack a reason strong enough to fight it. When life has no clear purpose, it's easy to drift, to push things aside, and to settle into comfort. But the moment responsibility enters our lives, everything changes. Think of that lazy boy. His turning point came when he realized his actions, or lack of them, didn't only affect him, they affected the people who believed in him and the dreams he carried within. When we connect what we do to something bigger, our family, our goals, our future, we find a fire that excuses cannot put out. Responsibility has a way of waking us up and reminding us that every effort matters. It gives meaning to the struggle, and that meaning fuels motivation. The boy stopped asking, "Why should I do this?" and started asking, "What will happen if I don't?" That shift alone gave him the energy to rise above his laziness and work with purpose. And once you discover a reason strong enough, you'll realize that no obstacle is greater than your determination. Responsibility transforms laziness into action, and action into lasting change. There comes a moment when you realize that proving yourself is not about showing others what you can do, but showing yourself what you are truly capable of. The boy who was once known for his laziness began to understand this when he turned his weakness into his greatest source of strength. People doubted him, they labeled him, and they expected him to fail. But instead of letting those opinions define him, he used them as fuel to rise. Every step he took, every task he completed, was no longer about escaping laziness, it was about building a new identity. He wanted to look back and see a story of change, not excuses. And with each challenge he faced, he proved that persistence can rewrite a person's life. The journey wasn't easy, but the satisfaction of proving to himself that he could overcome his greatest flaw was worth more than any praise. That is the true power of transformation. When you take the very thing that once held you back and turn it into the driving force that pushes you forward. Because in the end, the strongest proof you can ever give is to yourself.